Shabbat Shalom. A friend sent me a cartoon this week. She texted this to me. It's a person who's standing in their kitchen, like at the counter, and they look kind of just lost in thought. And there's all these kind of like thought bubbles, like the whole frame of the cartoon is filled with all these thought bubbles. They have all these thoughts swirling above their head. Says things like, markets plunge as prices rise, and, civil unrest grows after, whatever announcement, X number of people missing in natural disaster, and this, and this, and this, the whole thing, it's full. And the person has this kind of 1,000-yard stare, like you can see the weight of the world. And then this little kid kind of appears in the corner in the next frame and says, "What's for dinner?" And if that's not real life right now, I don't know what is. If you have kids, you know exactly what I mean. And if you don't have young kids at home, it's still true. The dog, your cat. Regardless of the outside world, whatever's happening out there, dinner time is always dinner time. Regardless of how you feel about what's going on in the world, regardless of what's going on in the world, the ones who depend on us still do. And it creates this really weird dissonance, because of what's happening outside and what's happening in us when we're thinking about what we're feeling, all those thoughts and feelings we're processing. It's immense, even while everything else seems to just floating on, business as usual. And all of that's happening just weighs so heavily, doesn't it? Like, I know, and I know you know, so many people affected by the floods out in hill country. I didn't realize it when I first saw the news. Obviously, I knew where it was, but I didn't even realize that I have, and I know you do as well, all these tiny threads connecting me in ways I didn't even know. So the tragedy's there. My friend's daughter, she plays softball with one of the girls whose cabin was swept away. I didn't know that. My husband's cousin, he has a cousin. There's a man he worked with for years in their business. Him, his wife, their 14-year-old son, still missing. And of course, our own Jewish community here in Houston, we lost one of our own, Molly Schaefer. She belongs to a Beth Israel family. She was vacationing, like so many of us, along the Guadalupe with her beloved husband, 57 years, Randy, and they were fleeing. They were fleeing from the flood in their SUV, and she told him, "You go first." She wanted to make sure he made it out. And he later said she wouldn't leave the car until she was sure I had done so. Randy said, "She saved my life. It wasn't my day to die. I just wish it hadn't been hers." All of these stories that they're coming to light that we hear, they're real for us here. They're real for us because who among us hasn't vacationed in hill country or dropped a child off at camp, or been at home and watched the water creep up your driveway? Who among us hasn't been there? All of us here in Texas, and especially I think here in Houston, we feel the pain of this devastation. We identify with the survivors and the victims' families because we know them. And so much of what's coming out now, it's no longer rescue stories. It's tragedies. And the pain of it all, it's almost too much to bear. And at the same time that all of this is happening and you're reading and you're seeing and you're absorbing, from Israel, the news is not really any better this past week. More soldiers killed in the line of duty, one of whom Hamas was actually trying to kidnap and take back. None of that made international headlines. Shocking. But what did make international headlines was the Dina Project. I don't know if you heard this. I heard this. The Dina Project are a group of women. They're legal and feminist experts. They are dedicated to investigating and publicizing the sexual violence and gender atrocities committed on October 7th against our people. And they released their report this week from survivors, firsthand testimony from that day and the days that followed from former hostages. And what they found was, it's terrible. It's terrible. It's terrible. I'm not going to go into details, but it's everything you imagine. Everything you imagine. It was definitely something to see this reported in sources like BBC, because BBC, and that they actually said the Dina Project's report on October 7th establishes that Hamas used sexual violence as a tactical weapon as part of a genocidal scheme with the goal of terrorizing and dehumanizing Israeli society. From the BBC, that's fairly impressive. But at what a cost? Those incredibly brave women and men who reported what they saw, what they experienced. So maybe the world will believe us. Maybe the world will care. But seeing all that in the news and reading it and turning it over in your mind, it weighs on you. It is heavy, you feel it. And just today, icing on top, the ADL, so that's going to be good news, released a report after the spate of deadly anti-Semitic attacks in the U.S., in Philadelphia, and D.C., and Colorado. They found in this report, it's actually kind of funny, if you have a dark sense of humor, which our people do, and here's why. They found, when asked about these anti-Semitic attacks, a quarter of respondents, who are just, regular old Americans, a quarter of respondents said that the attacks were understandable. Understandable. Those attacks, those anti-Semitic attacks, they're understandable. It gets better. Another 25% say that the anti-Semitic attacks on Jews were either justified or necessary. Wow. Ho. I'm not great at math, but that means that about half of respondents to this survey were like, yeah, it was bad, but Jews. Wow. And when you step back and look at even just this week, in its full technicolor glory, the natural disasters and the man-made disasters and the hate and the violence and how hard everything just seems right now, the enormity of the grief and the pain and the despair, the depth of that, it feels unknowable. Where does it end? Because every hit hurts and the hits just keep coming. How many times can a heart break before it shatters? And all that's what's swirling around in my head, and I'm standing in my kitchen, and that, of course, is when my son asks for a snack, even though dinner is in 5 minutes. And I hear the baby, and she's yelping, and she's waving her arms because she just learned to do that because that means she gets picked up. And the dog's scratching at the back door because he has to go out. All the little creatures who depend on me snap my attention to the fore, to the right now. The cognitive dissonance between those two poles, that is real. And in that moment, with the enormity of the world is weighing on your very soul, I think you have two choices. You can stay in that dark place. You can be pulled down like by so much floodwater. Or you can say, not now. When the world, like it feels now, is so dark and deep and heavy, you're allowed to, you are supposed to, as your rabbi, I'm actually going to say you should press pause. I'm not saying don't think about it. It's not possible. You can't control what you think about. But I think what just needs to happen right in the now, what you need to focus on in the now is right now. Because life still goes on. Your kids gotta eat, and so do you. There's a lot of life that needs living every day. You do no one any services by denying yourself by choice the life that so many have had tragically taken from them by force. Bacharte b'chaim, the Torah tells us, choose life. Because, the world is a broken place, and many of us feel that acutely, more so now than before. And Judaism reminds us that there may be nothing you can do to cure it. In fact, there is nothing you can do to cure all of it. So focus elsewhere on what you need to do now, on what you can do now for the little creatures in your life, yes, but also for yourself. Because clearly you're an important person too. All those little creatures, they need you. And so do we. We need you, so take care of you too. And when you do that, you usually find you can do more. More for others who desperately need our help now. I know you can't fix it all. No one can fix it all. I can't fix it all. There's no one person who can fix everything right now. That's why Rabbi Tarfon said in Pirkei Avot, Lo alecha hamlacha ligmor. It's not your job to finish the work. You're just not free to neglect it. Your job, when the chips are down and things are dire, like now, is to do what you can do to alleviate the suffering, repair some small part of the brokenness of this world. Do what you can and help as you're able. I think that's why Anne Frank wrote when she looked into the abyss that she saw around her. She said how wonderful it is that nobody need wait a single moment before starting to improve our world. As dark and difficult as it is out there now, let's not wait. Shabbat Shalom.